Alrighty, guys, we are talking baseball. Let's talk about the Mets. We're going to recap the Mets-Phillies series. But first, let's talk about how they got there, because I never talked about that last wildcard game as the Mets defeated the Brewers 4-2 on the backs of, once again, a late game comeback. The Mets wouldn't have even been in the position to take down the Phillies if not for that game against the Brewers. Milwaukee scored a couple runs in the 7th inning. Jake Bauers with a pinch hit home run to take the lead, and then Sal Frelick also with a solo home run. So it was 2-0 going into the 9th inning. And into the game comes Devin Williams, their closer. After Freddie Peralta, starting pitcher Freddie Peralta, he tossed the 8th. He had just pitched 2 days prior. He went in and pitched the 8th. It's 9-0. Peralta did his job. Here comes Devin Williams. And the Mets did what the Mets do best. They rallied. Pete Alonso crushing a home run, a 3-run home run in the 9th inning. That's just what they do. The New York freaking Mets with a 4-2 win over the Brewers to advance. And Pete Alonso, that might have been his signature Mets moment. A 3-run homer in the 9th, down by 1. That might have been his signature Mets moment, and he needed it. He had an up and down season. The Mets and fans have a weird kind of love-hate relationship with Pete Alonso. That was his moment. It was epic. It was excellent. It was hype. It was everything you're looking for out of your star player in Pete Alonso. He was great. And what a game. So after that, the Mets took on the Phillies, of course, in the NLDS. Game 1, New York jumped out to the early lead. No, they didn't. Philadelphia led 1-0 for the first 7 innings of that game. And once again, who was it? It was Kyle Schwarber with a leadoff home run to open the game in the first inning, bottom of the first. Once again, the Mets rallying late against the Phillies bullpen, who had struggled against Atlanta as well. Sorry, not Atlanta. This is the Phillies' first series. I don't know what I'm talking about. Phillies bullpen, though, really struggling. Zach Wheeler allowed just 1 hit, struck out 9 in 7 innings. We've always known Zach Wheeler's a dog, but he brought the dog out for the playoffs. Probably the second best pitcher in the National League this year besides Chris Sale. Probably going to get some Cy Young votes. Into the game comes Jeff Hoffman and Matt Strahm, who've both been good this season. Let's not pretend. I mean, Jeff Hoffman's a good pitcher. And so is Matt Strahm. There's an argument that Matt Strahm might deserve All-Star vote, Cy Young votes. 2.5 WAR, 1.87 ERA in 2024. He was dominant. But they couldn't stop the Mets. Top of the 8th inning, Mets rally to score 5 runs. RBIs from Brandon Nimmo, Mark Vientos, JD Martinez, Starling Marte, Pete Alonso. And the Mets go on to win that game 6-2. Another thrilling game, another great win for the Mets. The old guys on the Mets, man, it's a lot of old guys. It's Lindor, who's kind of old. It's Nimmo, who's getting older. Pete Alonso, veteran. Jose Iglesias, veteran. Jesse Winker, veteran. JD Martinez, veteran. Starling Marte, veteran. Harrison Bader's a veteran. Their pitching staff. A lot of vets on the pitching staff. Jose Quintana. Ryan Stanek, who, by the way, came in and pitched the 9th inning. Former Mariners, shout out. Phil Matten, David Peterson, Reed Garrett. It's a veteran team. And they may not, they're a veteran team, but they play with the energy of a youth team, and that's what makes them so dangerous, I think. Because oftentimes what happens with a veteran team, Phillies are also a veteran team. Like Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Castellanos, that top 4 they're all very experienced, and then Real Muto as well. Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. Phillies are also a veteran team. And it's easy for veteran teams to either A, be overconfident in themselves, or B, they just slow down by the end of the season and they lose some energy because they're just older. The Mets are a veteran team playing with youth energy. And that's what makes them so dangerous. Because not only do they have the age and the experience and the been there, done that factor, they are playing with youth energy, which is propelling them. So after that, game 3 rolls around. Phillies really needed a win to get that momentum back, and they got it. Again, great game. Mets actually opened the scoring this time. They led 2-0 through 3 innings. They led 3-0 through 6. Luis Severino, another veteran, had a nice start, scoreless through 5, 7 strikeouts. Severino did allow 3 runs in the 6th inning, and the Phillies tied the game at 3 apiece. Home runs by Nick Castellanos and Bryce Harper certainly helped. By the way, October 6th, the anniversary of the Hamas-Israel attacks, and Nick Castellanos goes deep. I'm sure the announcers probably mentioned something about that. He always hits him on the funniest moments. Either way, 3-3. Mets took the lead back in the 7th, 4-3, but the Phillies rallied to score 3 in the 8th, 1 more in the 9th. The Mets also rallied in the 9th with a couple runs. Did not end up being enough, so the Phillies win game 2, 7-6. Edwin Diaz allowed a bulk of runs. He allowed 3 earned runs, all of them coming in the 8th inning. So they went to Diaz to get the hold, and he's had an up and down season. He finished with a 3.52 ERA, not terrible, 20 saves. But Diaz has been a bit of an X factor this season as far as when he's good, he's great. But when he's off, he is a little bit off. And he's blown some saves this season. He has. I'm not sure if we can find the full. I wish I could see, like, does he have a relief pitching page? I don't know. But Diaz has not been perfect this season. I'm trying to find his 20 saves and how many blown saves? 7 blown saves. And that was a tough blown save for him, but ultimately the Mets, of course, they would come back. So let's talk about the rest of that series. So the final game, Mets-Phillies, final game. Mets winning 4-1 in the final game. Phillies opened up with a 1-0 lead. Their only run was scored. It was they didn't even have an RBI. I believe it was a sacrifice fly, something like that. Ranger Suarez got the start. He was good. 4.1 innings, no earned runs, 8 strikeouts, 5 hits, 4 walks. So there was some traffic. By the way, the Mets left the bases loaded in both the first and second inning. Finally, in the 6th inning, the Mets broke out. And how did they do it? One man, Francisco Lindor, the best player on this team, Mr. Smiles, the most fun player on this team, the guy who is going to finish runner-up MVP to Shohei Ohtani. Lindor cracked a grand slam, so the Mets loaded the bases for the 3rd time in that game. First time, they didn't score any. Second time, they didn't score any. 3rd time, Lindor hits a crushing grand slam, and you could see it in Bryce Harper's eyes. He knew it was over. When Lindor hit that grand slam, they panned the camera to Bryce Harper, and they knew, you could tell, he knew they weren't going to win that game. Because the Mets had the momentum. The Mets had the better bullpen. Phillies bullpen allowed a ton of runs in these 4 games. Game 1, the Phillies bullpen allowed 6 runs. The starters allowed none of them. In Game 2, the Phillies bullpen, let's see. They allowed 4 runs. Starters allowed 2, so now it's 10-2. In Game 3, the Phillies, Nola allowed 4. The bullpen allowed 3, so now it's 13-6. And then in Game 4, the Phillies bullpen allowed all 4 of them. So the Phillies bullpen allowed 17 runs this series. Mets, their rotation allowed only 6. But the Mets had the better bullpen. The Mets had more energy, and that's how they moved on to take on the Dodgers. Game 3, the Mets said, no more of this losing thing. They scored in the second inning, the fourth inning, 2 in the sixth, 2 in the seventh to build a 5-0 lead. No, a 6-0 lead. Another great start for the Mets. Sean Manaea, 7 innings, 1 earned run. Phillies finally got on the board in the 8th inning. Manaea pitched into the 8th. Very rare that you see that happening. But Manaea pitched into the 8th, allowing just the 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, 3 hits in 7 innings. The Phillies, ultimately, the way that they were able to score was 2 runs, 1 off of 1 off of Manaea, 1 off of Phil Maton in the 8th inning. Wasn't enough. Mets easily win this game 7-2. Alonso with another home run. Jesse Winker with a home run, going 1 for 3 as the DH. Love to see a guy like Winker having success after struggling in Seattle and then really struggling in Milwaukee. I mean, he was a borderline out of the league candidate because he couldn't even really stay on the field in Milwaukee. Not because he was hurt. He was bad. He was terrible last year. Gets a little prove-it deal with the Nationals, a bad team, plays really well, gets traded, now playing out of his mind with the Mets. I love stories like that, where it's like these guys who are maybe having to redeem themselves. And it's a redemption arc. You love it. You have to love it. How do you not love baseball? How do you not get romantic about this kind of stuff?